Welcome back to Easily Explain, where today we will be talking about the verb tener, ir, and some other stem changing verbs. So let's get started. This video is like a compilation of some different irregular verbs that are very common in Spanish. So tener and stem changing verbs are pretty similar, but ir is a little bit different, but we're still going to cover it in today's video. So starting off with tener. Tener means to have. So if I say yo tengo, that means I have. Tú tienes, you have. Él, ella, usted tiene, he, she, or you formal have. Nosotros tenemos, we have. Vosotros tenéis, y'all have. Ellos, ellas, ustedes tienen, they have, or the you formal group. For example, if I wanted to say, I have a cat, yo tengo un gato. Another reason why tener is a very important verb in Spanish is we actually use it to tell age. Now, in English, for example, you could say, you are 15 years old. So the you are, you would expect in Spanish for it to translate to either ser or estar because it's a form of to be. However, in Spanish, we actually don't use ser or estar for telling your age. We actually use tener. So if I wanted to translate this, I would say, tú tienes 15 is the number for 15 años, years. So literally what it translates to is you have 15 years. And that's just the way you say it. Another thing that's regarding the verb tener, you can also use tener que. This means to have to. And it's kind of the same idea. This is more of like if you want to say, for example, I have to write a book. Now, you still have that have. So that's your tener, and your have to translates to tener que. So in the same way, you're still going to conjugate tener in the same way, but the next verb will be a little bit different. So, yo tengo, the conjugation for tener, and then que is not conjugated, it's not a verb, so it's not conjugated. Yo tengo que escribir un libro. Now, you would think that maybe I have to conjugate this verb too. Tener already counts as a verb. Tener is a verb. And whenever you have two verbs in a sentence, you can't conjugate both of them unless it's some very specific case that we don't talk about until much later. But since we already have tener as a verb, tengo, we already conjugated it, the next verb that comes after it is going to be an infinitive. It's similar to the verb gustar. If we were saying me gusta escribir, we wouldn't say me gusta escribo. We would leave it in the infinitive form. Complete the practice for the verb tener by conjugating it for the subject pronoun that is given. Okay, let's look at the first one. Nosotros blank mucha tarea. The conjugation for tener in the nosotros form is tenemos. So this means we have a lot of homework. Tarea is homework, and mucha is a lot. Okay, now we have ella. Here you conjugate tener, que, conjugate leer un libro. Alright, so first part is conjugating tener, pretty easy. Ella tiene que blank un libro. So remember that you actually don't conjugate this. So it's going to stay in the infinitive form. So I was kind of tricking you with that one. Ella tiene que leer un libro. She has to read a book. And you can also just try to literally translate this, the she has part, and then to read. This is not conjugated. This is infinitive form itself, the to read. Anytime you have, just like we were saying, the definition of tener is the infinitive form of the verb. And the literal meaning is to have. And if you probably noticed, all of our infinitive verbs have had the to in front of it. So realize that this is already in infinitive form, so why would we conjugate it? Okay, so she has to read a book. Alright, next we have usted blank 14 años. So we're talking about the usted form here. So tiene, you formal are 14 years old. Now, even though it translates literally to you formal has, you have 14 years, it's understood that that's what it means, so we're not going to literally translate it here. And this was actually a question. ¿Cuántos años blank for you? It's just tienes, and this means how old are you? Or literally, how many years do you have? Alright, now we're going to talk about ir. The verb ir means to go. And our conjugation chart is yo voy, tú vas, él, ella, usted va, nosotros vamos, vosotros vais, ellos, ellas, ustedes van. Now let's translate the sentence, she is going to the library. So ella, the is going part is what we are going to look at here. Ella va, so ella va a. So the thing with ir is whenever you're using it, unless you're using it in the infinitive form, if you're conjugating it, know that it has to be the conjugated form plus a. This means she's going to, because ir is just to go. So if you just say va, ella va la biblioteca, then you were saying she is going the library, which doesn't make sense. So remember to always include that a. Ella va a la biblioteca. Also, if the word here is masculine, for example, if we talk about the cafe, then you can actually combine a plus el into al. So instead of saying ella va a el café, you can say ella va al café. The same thing happens with de and el, but it just becomes del. But we don't really need that right now. Alright, now let's try to conjugate it with another verb. She is going to study. So ella, still the same thing, va a. However, the same, we can see the to study part. This one means that we're not going to conjugate it. So, ella va a estudiar. Alright, now you have your practice for ir. Conjugate ir based on the subject pronoun given. Okay, first one. We have yo, conjugate ir a, and then gimnasio. So first, ir, so yo voy. And then we have a plus el because this is masculine. So yo voy al gimnasio. Nosotros blank, 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 which is escribir. So first we conjugate ir, vamos. And then we have a. And then escribir is just not conjugated. So it just stays in the infinitive form. Ellos blank, 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 casa. So we have van, a, and since this is a feminine word, it has to be separate. You can't make something like that. That won't work. Do not do that. And then we have tú vas, concierto, so vas al. So then this is I go to the gym. We are going to write. They are going, literally it's to the home, but they're going home. And you are going to the concert. Now in Spanish, we also have some stem changing verbs, and these are also called boot verbs. There's 4 main types that we're going to be going over: E to IE, O to UE, E to I, and U to UE. Let's do a common verb for E to IE. Querer is to want. Alright, so we have our E, and basically what each time that you conjugate in your chart, the E changes to an IE. So we have the regular ER, so we're still going to do that ending, but we're just going to change this to quiero. Instead of quiero, it becomes quiero. It becomes quieres, and then quiere. Now, this is why we call it stem changers boot verbs, because it only affects this part of the conjugation chart. So if you look at it, kind of looks like a boot or an L. The nosotros form and vosotros form do not stem change. Do not say queremos or queremos. It's just regular. And then quieres. Okay, so same thing, O to UE. For example, we have poder. This is to be able to. Puedo, puedas, puedes, puede, pueden. That's our boot. And now we can just do the normal ones. Podemos and podéis. Alright, our next one is E to I. For example, we have servir, to serve. So we have sirve, sirves, sirve, sirvo, sirven. That's your boot. And then servimos and servis goes back to normal. The last is U to UE. For example, we have jugar, which means to play. So juego, juegas, juega, and then juegan, and that's the only ones that change. And then we have jugamos and jugáis. There are more stem changing verbs, but these are your main rules. And for some of them, such as U to UE, jugar is the only verb with the U to UE stem changer. The other ones have a lot more, but there are some very common ones that will add a list. So these are some other common stem changers. You might want to take a screenshot or search up all of these verbs and find out what they mean and where you can use them. And remember that the only one for U to UE is jugar. So now for practice, conjugate the stem changers, but I did write the rule since it is a little bit new and you just need to get used to all those stem changers so you can memorize them, and then you'll be able to do it without the rule. Pause the video now and complete the practice. Okay, so the first thing we have to do is change this to the UE, and then it's tú, so duermes. This means you sleep at night. Next we have nosotros, servir, y trae la comida. But let me tell you, this doesn't matter because it's the nosotros form. So it's just servimos. And that means we serve the food. El libro costar, OTUE, $10. So this is going to be cuesta. The book costs $10. Yo querer is I to IE, un perro. So we're going to change this to IE and then quiero. I want a dog. Congratulations, you are now an expert at the verb tener, the verb ir, and stem changing verbs. We hope this video really helped, and we'll see you guys next time. Bye!